Welcome to episode 224 of The Numbers Game. I'm Jace. I'm here with Nick and Marty. Marty, you're on the horse today, mate. What have you got?
Yeah, I'm on the horse, mate, but you look like you've dropped about 20 kilos. What's going on there, Jace? What's happened?
Mate, just ran the Tokyo Marathon the other week, a couple of weeks back, and managed to get food poisoning the day before the marathon. So it was quite a brutal experience, pushing the body to a 42-kilometre run. I think it was one of the hottest Tokyo marathons on record. And then I spent the next 2 to 3 days bedridden and a 10-hour flight home, feeling quite miserable and sorry for myself. So
bad piece of sushi or something, mate.
You wouldn't believe it. It was pizza.
Oh, wow.
Like I you know when you try and stick to what you know. So all the other marathons I've run, it's like pizza and pasta the night before. Just stick to what you know. I should have had like a katsu and some rice or something, or some, or some sashimi. But no, I want pizza and pasta, and went past about 3 or 4 different restaurants that were fully booked, couldn't get in. Pizza pasta restaurants. Night before the marathon, that makes sense. And then I saw one that was empty, and I thought, oh, this is me, you ripper. And there's a reason that restaurant was empty, I'll tell you that much. And so I think the raw egg and the raw meat that was on the pizza might have got the better of me. And
so did you get through the marathon and get cook afterwards, or?
I did. Casey was at the 15-kilometre mark, and then she texted me saying, I'm no good. I've had to go back to the hotel room. I'm violently ill. Hopefully you're okay. Thumbs up. Good luck. And that was the last I heard from her at the 15-kilometre mark. And so she went back to the hotel room and was out. It hit her sooner than it hit me. We both ate the same thing. And then kilometre 30, I just felt my stomach basically just turn on itself. It was just this big churn moment. And when you can, like, in a crowd of people running, if you can hear your own stomach from outside the body, like there's a problem. So yeah, from kilometre 30 to 42 was horrible. I've never had a cramp before, but I got a cramp at the 36-kilometre mark, just a sign of the dehydration and the mess my body was in. But yeah, don't recommend it.
Anyway, enough of your weight loss, Jace. Today I want to talk about, funnily enough, hunting and farming, which you could use some of this, but more from a sales perspective. Over 30 years being in sort of leadership positions and managing sales teams, you certainly learn a few things along the way. And I come across this sort of scenario probably in the US, probably in 2007, and it sort of made sense to me in regards to how you could decimate almost your business by choosing the wrong person for your sales model in your business. And I'll explain, like a hunter is a person that just goes out there, gets deals, finds deals, makes things happen. They're out on the road. They can bring a deal into port. They just have this knack of going out there and making things happen and finding opportunity. Where a farmer might be looking after a portfolio, and their whole role is to look after that portfolio, make sure the clients are very, very happy, and then opportunity extends off that service as well. And but it just gives you a good demonstration of the two different scenarios there. And I can relate to this coming out of the bank. When I was 27, I was put into a portfolio of business clients, and my whole role was just make sure you grow the portfolio, more revenue on the clients in there, make sure they're happy, they will refer more people to you, and obviously the bank wins. So that was good. And then when I stepped out into my own business, not only did I not know how to hunt at this stage, I didn't even have a block of land to work. So it's like, and I remember turning to my business partner at the time going, if we don't do something here, we're going to all be going hungry and, losing deals and weight like Jace has. So so it was a real eye-opener. And fortunately, I had some experience with door-to-door sales when I was 18, and I had a premise of what needed to happen to go and create value out there in the market, have conversations. And that was the spark of going, okay, well, that's what I need to do. What value am I going to put out there? Nick, what would you say? Hunter or farmer, or a bit of both for you?
The default answer is a bit of both, but let's be honest, that's boring.
Yeah.
I think I'm a hunter, thinking about it for the whole 10 seconds, but I'd say a hunter because Well, you would probably attest to this. I'm not just saying this, but my strength is probably bringing work in, managing relationships. I get bored. So that to me means hunter.
Yep.
Because I don't get bored. That's probably the wrong way to say it, but I don't find excitement in managing relationships. And if you look at my role at the moment, it's a combination of a few things, but one of the big ones is bringing in new opportunity. So I'm a hunter. Jace, what are you?
The thrill of the chase, you've got your prey, you're going after it. Like hunter by default, I think, again, the same thing, applied the 10-second logic of being asked the question, and I'd say hunter. And I agree with you as well. Even when you said the word boring, I'm like, I don't know if it's the word, but I don't know what other word to use. Like I'm a relationship guy. Like I've got plenty of great relationships with my clients and the portfolio of people that, come to Future Advisory and call it home for their accounting, bookkeeping, advisory. But while I'm good at it and I like having a lot of great relationships with clients, what gets me really excited is the hunt, like, bringing in new business, getting excited about something new and exciting and being able to deliver, some fantastic results by bringing somebody new on board. So hunter by default.
And I think depending on your role, but as a business owner, you probably need to have an element of both, whether you enjoy them or not. I think about staff, you've got to have a relationship with your staff, and when you're leading a business or a team, or you've got your own clients, you need to have that farmer element, don't you? But I think what Marty's going to talk about is specific sales roles. But yeah, I think any good business owner has an element of both.
But you both make good points, because in context, Nick, you would be a farmer in the business, within the business, in regards to your team. You have that element of developing relationships so people can perform. So, but from a pure sales mechanism, definitely a hunter, bringing on opportunities. Same with yourself, Jace. And I would say now, I'm probably more the farmer, making sure the staff are doing what they need to do and fostering them in order to get growth. So there's pros and cons for each, and I think a lot of the times people can discount one or the other. Like sometimes people can say the hunter's too transactional and that's all it is. So they can get an opportunity and then, shoot the opportunity in the foot by not looking after them as well. And then they have to find more and more opportunities, right? Whereas the farmer, can expand upon those opportunities by, really good customer service and fostering that relationship and then generating more self-generated opportunities through that process. And I was thinking about it in time, and I think the scales can tip one way or the other depending on what's needed. But definitely from in a mortgage broking sense, I always think you need 50-50. You have to be able to hunt, and I know that might seem like the boring answer, but I go, you have to foster that relationship in order to grow that client and the opportunities from that client as well. So I definitely think you need both. But again, when you're coming into a new profession, you might have to be 90% hunter originally, because if you haven't got anything to the farm, well, hey, what's the point spending time there if there's nothing there? So it's really interesting as to the scale of where that sits depending on where you're at in your career, what role you play. But it's important to acknowledge it, that what does your sales model need? Like when you're bringing someone in, that's the connection point in regards to recruitment.
Yeah, you've actually just made me think, because we're going through a circumstance in the business at the moment with an external provider. But you're just making me realise how important it is to have both, because as a client or a consumer, or being on the other end, there is nothing worse when you get hunted, in inverted commas, and then the service isn't there post executing an agreement, hypothetically. So we've got a bit of an issue now with a external provider where the front end sales is brilliant, but then maintaining the relationship and what we require as customers probably hasn't been great. So when the shoe's on the other foot, there's nothing worse than getting sold to is the wrong word, but there's nothing worse than getting sold a dream, and then you sign on and then you don't get the service that you were sold. So as a business owner, it's absolutely vital that your business has whether both farmers and hunters, or people stay in their own lanes, but you've got to have both of those things covered. Or you can continue hunting, which is pretty costly in most circumstances, versus being a good farmer, which is retaining your clients, which is a much healthier business and bottom line in most cases.
Good point. You get a lot of organic growth through farming as well, and a lot of people discredit that in sales, which we certainly don't.
Well, Marty, I'll ask you a question. Is it more important to find new clients, or is it more important to retain?
Well, I definitely think both, because you have to have the ability to put value out in the market, whether you're an individual or a business itself. And you got to decide, even though we say it's hunter and it sounds pretty abrupt, right? But you've got to outvalue your competition. You've got to move people towards you. You've got to connect and engage and be in front of the next person, sharing the value and your point of difference that you're bringing to the table. Once that person is onboarded, then you've got to deliver on your expectations that you've set, and you've got to foster them and look at it from a 10-year relationship that's going to keep producing not only for the client but for the business as well. But that one opportunity on a value hunt that the client actually appreciates could be a 10 to 15 year client that produces vegetables year on year on year to the farm. And that's a really, really important. So I started as a farmer in banking because that's what was required. An organic sort of referral happened because of good job, good service. But I'm like yourselves. I love the opportunity to put value in the market and see someone reciprocate to that and want to be a part of your service. But then you want to actually heighten the experience for that person so they will not only tell their friends and be a billboard for your business out there in the general market. So you don't have to pay for that advertising. If you wow them and meet and exceed expectation, then they're going to be your billboard. They're going to share the great things that you've done in the business with them. And that's very low cost acquisition and high conversion acquisition. So it just spins everything on its head. And that's why in business, I've always been one to say, okay, well, if it's a value hunt and you're creating value in the market, the U-curve of growth is exponential if you're really doing a great job with that client. And we see that, Nick, in our business. We see some people, Simon's a great example of an incredible farmer, that he's not one to go out there and hunt very often, but he has his own portfolio of clients he looks after. He gets referral after referral. It's all self-generated because of what he brings to the table as a unique point of difference. So to me, it's vital. It's vital. And I think sometimes you can exhaust your lead opportunities too, right? So you go, otherwise you've got to be hunting 24/7. Whereas if you can capture a good amount of value leads that people want to be a part of, you can turn them into 5, 6, 7 opportunities. So to me, the exponential growth comes out of the farming, but you need the hunting because otherwise you've got nothing to start with. So you've got to be able to do it. Absolutely. Jace, make sense?
Big time. I love it. I'm just thinking like how I can get some training set up for, a team of accountants that, our accountants or advisors actually end up being salespeople for our business. So this has just got me really, everything's tinkering around in the brain going, okay, that mindset of a hunter, wanting to bring on, close new deals and bring on new work versus the farmer. Like, what can we do with our existing clients and relationships? How can we go deeper and do more work with existing clients? And how much easier is it to service the existing? And as you said, Marty, that balance of having to have both. Like, how do we make sure that our existing clients are getting everything that they need before we worry about onboarding new clients? It really is a hard juggle, because I know our team, we kind of have a bit of a, lead your own, life by design or lead your own kind of way. Like, our team are self-sufficient. They map their own work for the next, 90 to 180 days. They can see their own pipeline. And for example, one of the team turned early on in January and said, Jace, I've got a 90K target for the quarter, but I've only got 68K worth of work in my pipeline at the moment. Can you help me close another 22 grand worth of work? And like, knowing that in advance means if I'm the hunter and I really like to get out there and hunt, like, I can go out there and do that. So there's a fair bit of planning that goes on in the background, but I also, be interested in your take on, from a training perspective, do you train salespeople the same way, or are you having specific hunter versus farmer?
Oh, definitely. It's you've got to come from the individual. Like that's the unique That's the unique subtlety of it. And you've got to work the person's strength as well, because some people are great hunters, right? So you're developing the farmer part in them to try and generate more value within that transactional relationship that might be in the beginning, right? So whereas the farmer, you're sort of guiding them on how to hunt, because you know that they can create great rewards on the relationship. So it's teaching them, and it might be just one step at a time, right? You're not trying to eat the whole elephant at once. You might just say, go and have a conversation with the agent, see what you find, share your value prop, see what the response is, ask them what they want. So you use some of the farming skills even in the hunter mentality. But what I'd say to you, Jace, is going, what would you want that client to say about your business in regards to the experience they have? Because I always see the clients as the potential sales force when you're the farmer. So if that person has 22 grand, they still have to find, like, what could they do in regards to the current interactions that they have with clients that would wow those clients to the point where those clients would be talking about your business? And I know you guys are strategic, beyond, tax, right? It's a lot of advisory. But what would you want your client saying about your business because of the interaction with that accountant?
Yeah, look, great question. I think anytime a client raves about their accountant, it's when they're getting proactive advice. So when they're being led something or given something in advance without even asking for it. So, a big one's always our tax planning strategy sessions, where we're booking people in a room between March, April, May, June, so pre-end of financial year. And then sitting down, talking about the opportunities of, money into super, prepaying some bills, maneuvering some things around to be able to legally reduce tax. Or it's having the conversations proactively to go, well, hang on, you're looking to buy a house in the next 6 months, which means your taxable income, if we can make sure that you've got the appropriate taxable income, your borrowing capacity will be higher, so on and so forth. So yeah, I think it'll be more around driving more proactive conversations, or, doing a free business assessment kind of thing, and then going in with recommendations to say, hey, we've actually had a look at your 90-day cash flow, and there's a bit of a squeeze coming into May. Should we have a look at a line of credit right now? So it's those kind of things, which then lead to clients being raving fans. They go to the barbecue on the weekend and go, geez, my accountant called me out of nowhere and just told me this about my business, and I wasn't expecting it. So it's those little wins.
Big difference between, we're going to do your tax, instead of going, tell me where you want to go and we'll help you get there.
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to help you get there. Very, very powerful. That's what you want going out in the market. These are not just accountants. These are sort of lifestyle advisors almost for the business. It's a unique proposition. And like you said, and then the flip on that, Nick, is financial planning, where you go, you don't necessarily want 50-50 hunting on that, because they are looking after people at a different level, but you want some element of hunting. I would think that profession in general would usually be 95% farmer, in looking after people, and there's reoccurring revenue that comes with that. You mostly get referrals from the existing database. But the element here is, how do you switch to 5% hunt? And how would you get them to take that first step into that being proactive? And sometimes it'd be anti-intuitive, but you don't want extreme hunter in that field, I wouldn't think.
No, in most cases you want a farmer. I'm not saying hunters don't work, because they definitely do. But a lot of the times you have to complement them with maybe a farmer that's supporting them, hypothetically. So yeah, I think, and I'm just thinking as I talk about the planners that have come through our business. Most of them are farmers, but they're very good at closing. So when I say closing, presenting their value. So people in our business on the planning side, they're not expected to go out and find business. We generally supply lead flow for them, but what they need to be good at is positioning their value proposition and then signing people on. And that to me isn't really hunting, that's closing. But then the farming aspect really comes into play with the quality advisors who get to a point where they don't need any more lead flow from us, because their existing clients supply all of their leads. So yeah, as I'm talking, I'm thinking, well, no, financial planners are definitely farmers. and
But they close through value.
But they close. But I don't see that as a hunter. You get me in front of you, and I'll demonstrate my value to you.
Yeah.
And get you on board to at least want to give our service a try. But it's all about that ongoing relationship. It's all about that because when you're dealing with someone's financial well-being, they need to be 110% certain that you're the right person. And the minute they think you might not be, they're gone. So definitely farmer. And I was just thinking about some of your points, Jace, but I thought, how do you farm? Well, for me, it's you just got to ask questions. And the best farmers, I'm talking business sense now, in our business, have been people that ask questions and just really understand their clients. So their clients' goals and objectives, and I'm sort of reverting to financial planning talk here, but what is it your clients want to achieve? Do they want to grow their business by 20 or 30%? The best farmers really have an in-depth knowledge of what's happening in their client's life. And then organically, they have deeper conversations. And then organically, it's a better experience for the client, which means the client will then refer you on because they're having a really good experience versus a hunter who doesn't want to know you once you've signed. Maybe that's a stereotype.
You see that in our industry too, even in mortgage broking. You see the hunters out there, will get you a great rate. That's it. We'll get the deal done. It's done. They see as many people as they can, which, works to a degree. But those farmers, they think about how do people save money off their mortgage? How do they put people into a better position? How do they buy their first investment? They talk about their goals. They create a strategy around their goals. So they make the numbers dance. And that's, they're bringing value beyond the transaction. And that's the skill. And a lot of hunters turn into farmers with good training over time. But that's the development. If you can get that mix right, and in context to different industries require different things, it's really important. But the hunter-farmer dilemma, I think this is interesting. Many leaders misinterpret the specific roles of what they're hiring for, and it can be dangerous. Like if you need a hunter and you're hiring a farmer and going, what the hell's going on? Then it's really the business's fault, right? You've got to develop very, very quickly or, hire differently from the front end. And the other thing with a hunter, the last thing you want to do to a hunter is overwhelm them with administrative tasks. So say, do all this paperwork, make sure your process is 100% right, make sure you're doing all this, overwhelm them to the point where they can't hunt. So if you need a hunter, let them hunt, let them do what they do well. It's like you said, Nick, I want to win the dealings, but, at that stage, I'm delegating the rest of it because there's better people to deal with that at this point. If we make you deal with that, you're not going to have your best higher leveraged activities that's the highest level for the business. So it's really important that it's role specific. And ultimately, you don't want your top people to be frustrated and ultimately get angry and then leave. So you have to try and really work the balance for what you need. So just have a think about it. When you're hiring people, understand what the role needs. And are you looking to look after a portfolio of clients and extend that benefit for the business? Or are you looking for someone to hit the ground running and to create opportunity in the business? It's... you want them to fit your culture and your sales model, whatever that is. The wrong approach is, here's our product, now just go and sell it, because they can do damage in doing that if you have more of a farmer mentality. The right approach is, here's how our best people win and what they do. Look to duplicate that, like train through what's working well and what represents your business at the higher level. So if you've got 3 or 4 people that you consider role models in the business and they've got the balance right between hunter and farmer, let them understudy that to really bring their development forward as well.
I'm just thinking the challenges, and you could probably answer this better than anyone else, but the challenge of turning a hunter into a farmer. Is it worth even trying to do it?
That's the thing you got to work out. But everyone has unique abilities. So Nick, I think you got to, like I was just talking to one of our new guys this morning, Peter, great guy. He's definite hunter, but farming qualities. Like, he deals with investors. He likes to have people building wealth through property, which Caleb, who's one of our, and Justin deals in the investment space, who are role models in the business as well. And I can see those seeds of the farmer coming through. So he's a hunter, which is fantastic because he needs to get out there and meet people. He has high values. He wants to put that value out in the market, but his main role starting up is to see as many people as he can and represent that value. So no problem with that hunter mentality, but he has farming traits. So once he gets that portfolio established, he can quickly then 10x the opportunities because of those traits as well. So I quite like that. It sits in well for where we're at, and he's a value add to the client. So I also like. I like this little methodology as well. Like, people in real estate say this all the time, which works in real estate. Make 100 calls a day. Now, that's not always necessarily the right or wrong approach. Sometimes you've got to make the 100 calls a day. But a better approach is, what are the high valued activities that create real pipeline and execute into sales? Like, where are those calls? Maybe there's 40 of them. Maybe you got to hit the 100 to find the 40, whatever the case may be. But it's like, again, what are the metrics that get the results? And how do you do more of those activities? It might be calls in this type of area instead of that type of area. Where are you getting traction, and what's giving you the highest return on your efforts as well? Because doing more, if it's a time suck and it's not necessarily getting you a result, is not necessarily smart business too. So that's a strategy approach. I'm thinking how you're going to apply this as accountants, Jace. Who's your hunters? And how do you bring the farmer into the hunter?
But look, honestly, I think by default, accountants are probably more likely to be farmers. Like, once they've got a client, they start working on, even if you start with the basics, right? You have to lodge the BAS and do the tax returns. Like, accountants are driven by making sure things are lodged on time, things are done properly, we're compliant. And if you're doing all of that in the background, looking after a client, you're nurturing that relationship organically anyway. It's what's not probably natural is the upsell, like the would you like fries with that? The, hey, you could benefit from a cash flow forecast. Would it help you to know, what's happening in the next 90 to, 3 months to 6 months about your business? Actually being able to then sell that into a tangible product and take more money off a client if it's going to provide value. That's the bit that's probably not, natural for an accountant. Like, again, being stereotypical of accountants generally. So I think the challenge is always, if you've got farmers doing a great job and they don't want to be hunters, how do you make sure that, they're geared for success and that somebody else is hunting and then providing them the work to be able to continue to nurture those relationships? And then if you do, then, I've noticed a couple of the team that are organically like really, really good at the upsell or identifying opportunities. And, they're the ones that go, well, Marty, you touched on it before. And I go, I felt it, you're saying, if Nick had to do all of his own admin and all of this and all of that, I'm going, oh, geez, well, actually it makes me think of a few people in the team that are really good advisors, talkers, getting in a room and meeting someone and talking about, their future and how to help them get there. But executing on the other side becomes a bit of a roadblock when you've got to go back and do the nitty-gritty kind of step-by-step stuff that maybe somebody else is actually better suited to that. So, you've given me a lot to think about here, Marty. I really, really appreciate the conversation.
You called it well there. And I think that natural, I don't see it as an upsell. I see it as a transference of continued value to the business. So it's just making the person or getting the person or training them, whatever the case may be, being comfortable with that. Like we'll refer into financial planning, not because we have to, but because someone's taken out a mortgage and it's a duty of care to have a conversation around that to protect the family or the person that's taken out the debt. Now, does that seem like a sell? It's not. It's actually a transference of value that we're looking after our people. That's the big difference. People think it's an upsell, and yes, it's called an upsell in business, but technically what you're doing is strengthening the person's position. And sometimes they're just not aware what's available to them. Sometimes they're getting screwed on fees on their super. They have no understanding. But if we if we help them out and get them a great price on their mortgage and a great strategy, why wouldn't we introduce them to someone else in the business that's going to give them that same impact point? It just makes total sense. To me, that's not an upsell, even though that's technically what we're doing.
No, I agree. And it's even when our team, Future Advisory works really closely with the team at Innovate. So it's even that thought process of going, oh, geez, their interest rate they're paying is not probably the best in the market. Let's get a review. Let's get that looked at by the Innovate team. And even though realistically, like if we do more work together and our clients use us both, like there's a bigger pool of the pie for us. But end of the day, our client ends up with less money out of their pocket on their interest rate for their mortgage, or they end up with a better deal on the car loan, or superannuation's managed better with less fees, so on and so forth. So yeah, you're right. It's even though behind the doors you may use the terms upsell, but yeah, that value transfer and just giving the clients the things that they need, that they value, it won't feel like selling. And naturally, people are also geared to be sold to. People want to be sold something that they need and they value. But that's where the difference is. If you're trying to sell someone something that they don't see any value in, you're going to ruin the relationship pretty fast. There has to be the perceived value exchange. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, and you got to get that through salespeople heads. Is like, when you sell's an interesting word. It's something you do for people, not to people. And it's like if you can get the transition to that you're doing it for people and giving them value and ascertaining what that value is to them, you've sort of cracked the code on it. So it's really important. And that's the shift, and this is the thing when you're hiring or you're developing people in your team, you've got to acknowledge, where the areas of development need to go. But the shift is, good sales leaders hire, relevant talent for the role that they're hiring them for. Great sales leaders create a culture where winners thrive, and you just got to decide that. And there can be different, like a football team. There's different players that have different strengths in different areas that make up a team. So diversity of qualities is actually good within a team that you can cross across a team. Very, very powerful. Good sales leaders hope for success, whereas great sales leaders build predictable, scalable success and results. And again, that's all through the development and training of your people and understanding their weaknesses, leveraging their strengths, and adding to the cross sector of people you have to really build great teams and great businesses. So hope that's been of use to people.
No, 100%, mate. Even like when I saw the start of the episode, hunters versus farmers, I thought, what are we getting into? And even as we unpacked it, I thought, this applies way beyond, mortgage brokers or accountants or just sales team. I mean, sales teams, you could apply that to the electrician that's on site doing something on site and notices something else, like just how that can be applied in any industry. So Marty, once again, there's a reason you are the most favorite co-host of the Numbers Game. We thank you for what you brought to the table today. If you've listened and loved this episode, subscribe to YouTube, like, and do everything else that you do on Apple and Spotify and all the different bloody podcast channels these days. We've absolutely loved you joining us, and until next time,
make it happen and keep it happening. Game over.
This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The conversations are of a general nature and do not qualify as financial or tax advice. We recommend before you make any financial decisions, you consult a licensed professional. Individuals on the podcast may hold positions in the companies discussed.